Welcome to This Explainer. Look, every single day, someone out there is trying to steer your choices. So today, we're building your ultimate defense manual by breaking down 11 common manipulation tactics used to influence your decisions. Because once you can spot these signs, you can see right through them. Let's dive in.
I want you to take a quick second and think about a recent time you really wanted something from someone else. Maybe it was just getting your partner to finally tackle that mountain of dishes. Or perhaps you were trying to convince your boss to give you that well-deserved promotion. How did you actually make it happen?
Now, in a perfect world, we'd all just honestly ask for what we want, and everyone would happily comply, right? But we know the world doesn't really work like that. While there are completely ethical, honest ways to ask for things, the second you start using deception, lies, or some sneaky, indirect tactics to get your way, well, that crosses the line right into unethical manipulation.
To help you spot this stuff in the wild, here's our roadmap. We're going to cover getting what you want, soft and friendly tactics, guilt and emotional pressure, aggressive tactics, the personality profiles behind them all, and finally, protecting your decisions.
Okay, part 1. Getting what you want in an imperfect world. Just a quick heads up before we go any farther. Since the world isn't perfect and people don't just automatically bend to our will, we are looking at these tactics as a strict warning. Definitely not a how-to guide for bad behavior.
Moving right into Section 2, soft and friendly tactics, which includes charm, reason, pleasure, and money. We're talking about those moments where someone uses a flirty wink, a little harmless pleasure induction, or even a cash reward for a normally uncommitted act. They're basically playing on our baseline desires and greed to get us to submit.
But you know what tactic flies totally under the radar here? Reason. It sounds crazy, but imagine someone saying, if you helped me rob this bank, you'll be able to feed your family. Obviously, the action itself is extreme, but the logic, it's kind of accurate. And that's exactly what makes reason so highly manipulative. When someone throws pure, accurate logic at you, it is incredibly difficult to argue against it, making you way more likely to just break down and give them what they want.
All right, Section 3, guilt and emotional pressure. These are literally the weapons of anxiety and obligation. This includes the classic silent treatment, which is totally engineered to make you so anxious you just surrender. Or there's regression, when an adult suddenly starts whining, crying, and pouting like a toddler until you finally cave.
Now, a really counterintuitive emotional trap here is self-abasement. This doesn't involve insulting you at all. It's focused totally inward. It's when a manipulator humbles or downright humiliates themselves. Think of those heavy self-deprecating jokes, just to force you into forgiving them or to artificially leverage and strengthen a relationship bond.
Manipulators will also totally weaponize your sense of duty. They'll use responsibility invocation, like hitting you with, "but you promised," or "I already booked the reservations," which makes saying no feel completely impossible. Or they might prey on your insecurities using social comparison, pointing out that your coworker or some big celebrity is doing exactly what they want you to do.
Moving on to Section 4, aggressive and dangerous tactics, escalating to coercion and hardball. This is where things get serious, and the manipulator completely drops the friendly act and pivots straight to outright fear.
Which brings us to coercion. This isn't fun or flirty anymore. It relies purely on the threat of harm. For instance, if you don't help me rob this bank, I'll kick your dog. The psychology here is pretty dark, but unfortunately, it works. They make you feel like the consequences of refusing are far worse than just giving them what they want.
And it is absolutely vital to recognize how this escalates. Coercion is step 1, the threat or fear of harm. But step 2 is what psychologists call hardball, which involves actual bodily injury. Listen, I literally cannot stress this enough. If someone in your life uses the hardball tactic, you must get away from them as soon as possible.
Okay, Section 5, the personality profile. Now that we've mapped out these 11 tactics, let's look at who is actually pulling the strings here. And while we're at it, let's debunk a major societal stereotype. So, despite this common framing in media of women as the ultimate master manipulators, the data tells a completely different story. Research definitively shows absolutely no sex differences when it comes to these tactics. Men and women actually perform these behaviors equally. Honestly, just watch any internet pickup artist try to work his magic and that myth disappears right before your eyes. So, if it's not about gender, what is it? Well, master manipulators often exhibit a trait called Machiavellianism. Famously tied to the author of The Prince, this is actually a dark triad personality trait.
These individuals fundamentally believe they are above ethics and deserve to get exactly what they want, easily justifying manipulation to get it. But here's the crazy part. These tactics don't just apply to the dark triad. They actually map perfectly onto the standard Big Five personality traits that every single one of us has.
This breakdown brilliantly illustrates how our personalities dictate our manipulation styles. Highly extroverted people. They lean heavily into coercion or responsibility invocation because they're super comfortable confronting others. On the flip side, highly agreeable or open people tend to lean into logic-based reason or positive pleasure induction, ethically relying on their intellect to logically convince you.
But the absolute starkest contrast is conscientiousness. Rule followers, people with high conscientiousness, will try to ethically outlogic you using reason. But those with low conscientiousness, they're often highly impulsive. Because they lack that rule-following nature, they are much more likely to randomly pivot to aggressive, potentially criminal tactics like coercion or offering unlawful monetary rewards.
And finally, Section 6, Protecting Your Decisions. We've explored the 11 tactics, and we peered into the minds of the people who use them. The entire purpose of this explainer is to arm you with this knowledge so you can spot these specific behavioral signs out in your everyday life.
Because when you see clearly that someone is trying to launch a charm offensive or they're trying to lay an unethical guilt trip on you, the tactic completely loses its power. Spotting these signs is absolutely crucial for regaining complete control over your own choices and ensuring your relationships are built on actual honesty.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, crucial question to ponder as you evaluate the relationships in your own life. Now that you are armed with the defense manual against these 11 tactics, who is using them on you? See you next time.